Okay, so now we're back in Softimage in the scene we left off on last time when we created the base mesh for ZBrush sculpting, which is this base mesh right here. What I'm going to do is very quickly I'm going to change the name. I'm going to call it Damaged Wall ZBrush base mesh. We're going to be bringing in a few new objects here. So I'm going to take this guy and hide him since we don't need him. Now I'm going to import an OBJ file that I placed in my models directory. Okay. Now I have a few files from ZBrush. I have the high-res one, which is really big. Okay, it's over 500 megabytes. It's about, I think it's about 14 million triangles. I'm not sure. I got to check it out. We'll see in a moment though when I import it in. Right now, what I want to do is I want to import in a medium res one that I brought in from ZBrush. It's basically the same ZBrush sculpt, but I just exported out at a lower subdivision. So instead of like subdivision 8, I believe I exported this one out at subdivision about 4. Okay, and I also have a low res. So let me do something here real quick. I'm going to bring in the medium res. I'm not going to import materials or any of that stuff. Just going to hit OK. This is the medium res sculpt, and the reason I brought in this medium res sculpt, you can see it's actually pretty dense, pretty high res. It's got over 56,000 triangles right now. Obviously this is too high res to go into a game engine, but you can see that we have some of the detail from ZBrush, not all of it, but it's got a lot of the form and stuff like that. I'm going to rename this one, and I'm going to call this one medium res, and I'm going to import another object here. I'm going to go to import OBJ. I'm going to go back to my models directory, and I'm going to bring in the low-res object. Now the low-res object is the ZBrush sculpt brought in at subdivision level 1. Okay, so the lowest subdivision level is the one I brought in. Not going to import UVs or materials or anything like that. And if we look at the low-res one, which is this one here, if I do an isolate selection here real quick, you can see this is what the low-res looks like. Okay, so pretty low-res, only 876 triangles, so not even 1,000 triangles, which is pretty low res, and we could actually optimize this further if we were so inclined. So I'm going to rename this one. I'm going to call it low res, just to keep things organized here. Alright, so I'm going to bring back the high res and low res. Alright, so I'm going to take the low res object, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink wrap it to this medium res object. What I needed to do is basically follow the contours of that medium res object as closely as possible, and it's actually not doing a good job right now of doing that, which obviously, you know, is a problem. So what I'm going to do here is pretty simple. I'm going to take the low res object here, and I'm going to take the entire ring that's in the middle right here, and I'm going to subdivide that evenly. I'm going to take that new loop that I've created. I'm just going to kind of scale it in, but I'm going to scale it in with COG turned on, so it comes in something like that. And what I'm going to do next is pretty simple. I'm going to take this low-res object, I'm going to keep it selected, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I'm going to switch modeling construction mode over here to shape modeling mode, okay? And then I'm going to go over here to my deform menu, and I'm going to go to shrink wrap. Now Softimage is going to ask me, what do I want to shrink wrap this to? I'm going to choose the medium res object, which is currently the high res. Okay, and then when my shrink wrap options pop up, I'm going to lock down that PPG, and I'm going to turn on one of these options. You can go with closest surface or closest surface smooth. I'm going to use closest surface smooth since that works out pretty good. There's different options here that you can use. Basically, this deformer does a very good job of making one object follow the contours and things of another object. Okay. In terms of amplitude, I'm going to leave the amplitude at 1. That should be sufficient. Okay. So now with that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to modeling construction mode up here, and with the low res selected, if I look over here at my selection here, or I'll just do this here in the Explorer view, you can see that my shrink wrap deformer is right now placed under shape modeling, and everything else is placed under modeling. And this is good because this keeps things separate. So if I were to take this object and freeze modeling on it, You'll notice it gets rid of all the modeling history down here, freezes it, but it leaves the shrink wrapped alone over here so I can continue working with it if I need to, which is actually extremely flexible and useful. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take the low res object here and try to match it up with the high res as much as possible. So one way, for example, to do that is taking that edge loop that I have in the middle, and I'm going to bevel that, increase the distance there a little bit so it follows the contours of the mesh a little bit better. You can see it does a much better job of doing that. Another thing that I can do to help me out here is I can take the high res mesh here, and I'm going to hit F3 to open up a little mini explorer. I'm going to go to display, and I'm going to tell it to make a local copy, yes. Make sure you hit yes. And I'm going to take the opacity here for the X-ray, and I'm going to drop it down by quite a bit, somewhere about half. This way I can work with my low-res object and try to make it match up with the high-res as much as possible wherever I can. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get this done. So it's a pretty simple process. Just take some of this stuff and make it match up as closely as you can with the high res. You notice some areas may not be able to match up because there just isn't enough geometry. So in that case, what you may have to do is create some more geometry. You may have to come in here and fix some of this. But the basic overall idea here is to make the low res match up with the high res pretty close. As close as you can get it to match up. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of fast forward through this, since it is a pretty straightforward process. Just try to get this to match up pretty close. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward through that, and I'll meet you up when I finish. Okay, so I'm looking at this, and it looks like it's pretty much close enough. Depending on what your polygon budget is for your game, you may want to add more geometry, or you may want to reduce the geometry. So it really depends on what exactly it is that you have to get done. And everyone's game is different, obviously. So the exact way that I'm doing this is probably not the exact way that you need to do this as well. So just keep that in mind. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to reduce my geometry a bit. So I'm going to optimize things a little bit, just because I have a little bit too much geometry here. So I'm going to start getting rid of some of this stuff. Out here in these areas, we don't need so much geometry. Okay, so I optimized this a little bit. Didn't spend too much time optimizing. I could probably optimize some more, but I'm not going to spend too much time doing that. I think you get the idea. I've got this object now at under 1,000 triangles, which is actually pretty good. At this point, it's following the mesh pretty good. If I put more time into it, I could probably get it to follow it a little bit better. But at this point, I think this is going to work well to serve its purpose. Alright, so with this done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the medium res object, which we obviously no longer need. I'm just going to hide it. You don't have to delete it. It's a good idea to probably keep it around just in case. So this is our low res mesh. Okay, it's fairly low res, under 1,000 triangles. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to import the high res mesh. So let me take this guy and hide him. And what I'm going to do now is make sure to save. Sometimes when you're importing really high dense meshes into 3D programs, things can happen. Stuff can lock up, freeze, crash, stuff like that. So it's probably a good idea to save. So let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this video here, and in the next video, we're going to go ahead and import the high res and start working on our normal mapping.